So it has been 3 weeks after I've changed my brand new tires, some Pirelli Cinturato Rossos, and after basically around 3,000 plus kilometers from Ipoh, Penang and Kuala Lumpur during the whole Chinese New Year, and even to Pirellis. This is my new Proton Saga IGT, which I got during Valentine's Day of 2026. So, as you know from my TikTok and my Instagram video, I have changed out the tires from Atlas AS380s to these Pirelli Cinturato Rossos. So, just to take note, the previous Atlas AS380 tires were 185/55/15. Those were the stock size for the Proton Saga. But because the new Saga wheel wells are actually larger in the front and the back, it can finally accommodate 195/55R15 tires on the front and the back without scraping the insides. And actually, I feel like the thicker tire makes the car look actually better. It looks less tonggek than the 185/55. And also you get the benefit of having a thicker tire sidewall and slightly wider contact patches. So this will be my comprehensive review on the tires. So let's go for a drive. So let's tackle some of the specs of the tire first. This new Pirelli Cinturato Rosso is the replacement for their old Pirelli Cinturato P1, P6 and even P7 tire ranges. Now, a lot of people were surprised that I've actually gone with Pirellis, and a lot of people were actually equally surprised that Pirellis actually make small tires like this for economy cars. But Pirelli, as usual, like Michelin and other tires like Dunlop or Bridgestone, do have different ranges in their segment that cater to different cars. Now, I am a Michelin user for N years. On my Proton Iris of 6 years, that car has always been using Michelins, and it's a Michelin 3 XM2 Plus, the Energy XM2 Plus Eco tire range. It is also known that Michelin, that's the pronunciation in French, does not produce the primacy range for tires which are 16 inches or below. It is either you're stuck with the XM2 Plus or the PS3, which is a UHP sports tire. Now, the choice of this, the reason why I went for this one on the new Proton Saga instead of my tried and trusted Michelin, is because I wanted to try something different. You know, the Michelin has been on my Proton Iris for 6 years. I know the tire and the car like the back of my hand, and I know how good the tire can be. But there's always a little bit of a compromise when you make some economy tires, because they are either a little noisy or they are a bit firmer to aid when it comes to the rolling resistance to reduce fuel consumption. Now, my favorite Michelin tire for everyday use is actually the Primacy rather than the PS4 or the PS tire range. One of the reasons for that is because it is so much quieter for daily driving, especially on bad roads like these. And we live in Malaysia, we don't live in Japan, so bad roads have always been part of our commute. And the pricing of the XM2 is creeping up steadily. If you have checked the internet on Muda, these Pirellis are actually only RM or Ringgit Malaysia, 210 to 220, sometimes 250 Ringgit per tire for 15-inch rims, which are actually relatively affordable for what is basically a very premium brand. If you have checked the new Michelin XM2 Energies for 195/55/15s, those are right now at around 270 to 280 Ringgit, which I find quite ridiculous. And even more so for the PS3, which retails now for about 320 Ringgit. Any more, you'd be going into UUHP or semi-slick tires like the Yokohama AD09s. And since Michelin does not produce a primacy tire or a premium touring tire range for 15 inches, I thought I might as well just go for this. Now, I'm comparing this against two very common tires which I've already used in this price bracket. One is the Michelin Energy XM2 Plus, the other is the Hankook Ventus Prime 4. The Hankook is a value by proposition, and it's fantastic value for money. A premium touring tire which is quieter and more comfortable than the XM2, yet grips damn well and safe for 170 ringgit is it's a no-brainer. But me, being Gatal, wanted to try something about the Pirellis, because they've always been slightly sportier. Because where the Hankook excels at being a comfortable daily tire, it fails to give me any form of driving pleasure. I have no feel through the steering. It's very numb through the steering, and it doesn't feel like the tire could grip, even though it can. Now, on the Pirellis, on basically slightly larger sizes, I feel like 195/50 515s should be the new Proton Saga's standard size. Yes, I sacrifice a little bit on the fuel economy and maybe on the rolling resistance, since the tires are thicker and larger now and therefore maybe heavier. But the ride and handling of the car is just so much better. It rides properly through those little bumps, and on highways it's just more stable. Compared to the original Atlas tires on the Compared on the original Atlas tires for the Saga, it solved a few major issues with the new Proton Saga. First thing, the steering being a little too light for everyday usage. That has been solved because these tires are slightly thicker and is definitely wider. It solves the tires making the steering feel way too light. With a good alignment, now I can actually confidently drive on highway speeds way above the legal speed limit without feeling like the car is floating or the car is, diverting elsewhere when the road conditions are not good, or when you're overtaking something larger like a van or a truck, for example. The second thing that I noticed that it solves is actually, the lack of grip. There's an accident in front there. Double signals just to warn people at the back that you're slowing down suddenly. The second thing that I noticed that these tires solve are the issue with the original Atlas tires being very vague, very light and vague. Because the Atlas tires were meant to be comfortable tires and put comfort and refinement over everything else, as they call themselves soundless tires, they are also very soft and also do not provide any form of support when you're cornering hard. So it feels really disconnected and they feel awkward especially when you drive a little bit faster. Because the sidewalls are so thin at 185/55, it couldn't really properly cushion much bumps either, even though the tires are very soft. The Pirellis, on the other hand, they make the Saga feel way more confident. There's a lot more weight and accuracy through the excellent EPS system that is on this new Saga compared to the old one. Another thing that I'm really liking about the new Saga with these tires are the fact that they actually increased the refinement of the car compared to the original Atlas AS380 tires. They actually made the car feel more comfortable and more supple over larger bumps. And also the noise levels are actually not too bad, even though it is slightly on the sportier side. Now, Pirelli claims this tire to be an all-rounder, and I believe them for that. One for which that this tire is actually really grippy, even more so than the Michelin XM2 Plus that I'm used to. It is almost to Pilot Sport or UHP level tires of grip and support during cornering. They barely screeched and barely made any noise, even though I was hauling it up Genting. And through the tricky corners and even slightly wetter roads, they never failed to give me more than enough confidence. In fact, I feel like as a driver's tire, this is fantastic. I love the way that it feels, on higher speeds, and the way that the tires give me feedback through the steering wheel, through the body of the car, and through the suspension. It definitely feels like that it's got a sporty edge to the tire, which probably also doesn't make the ride as comfortable as it should. I do feel like sometimes over small bumps, especially when it comes to road imperfections, that it transmits a little bit too much to the body. It feels like I'm driving a Honda rather than a Proton. But the firmness of the sidewalls are all forgiven the moment I take a corner. And the noise levels, ironically, even though these are supposedly some premium touring tires with a sporty edge, with designs that may cause noise, are actually quieter than the original Atlas tires that the car came with. For example, now I'm cruising at 110 kilometers per hour in Federal Highway, not the best of the roads, but the road noise is actually very well suppressed. I'm hearing more of the wind noise rather than the road. And even if the tires land on rougher concrete, I don't hear too much of a difference in terms of NVH. With the improvements of the NVH on the brand new Saga, I do feel like this is actually a welcome addition. Although, as you can notice, the little bumps on the road, those are transmitted into the cabin a little bit much, but the bigger bumps are very well suppressed. Now, when it comes to the lights I like about this, my God, turn on your lights. My viewers, please do check and do not be this Gen 2 driver. Turn on your lights in the middle of the night, because this is downright dangerous. Oh, it's actually got front lights, but it's got no rear lights whatsoever. That's dangerous. Please do check your cars, my viewers, okay? Little bumps like these, when you cross bridges, you can definitely feel a little bit more on these tires. You can feel that the walls of the tire are firmer than usual. But that is what gives Pirelli the sporting, confident edge. In fact, around here where my Saga would normally just sort of float around with the Atlas tires, I'm confident and I feel comfortable doing this sort of speed and much faster with these Pirellis. What are the advantages and the disadvantages, you may ask? I would say that the Hankook Ventus Prime 4, in a value standpoint, that remains the champion of my list for economy and premium economy tires, because those are so comfortable. They literally almost delete the noise off the road. They cushion the ride and the little bumps that our Malaysian roads are known for, because Malaysia. And they are so cheap at 170 ringgit per tire for 15 inches. It is a steal. And if you're and not to mention, even in the rain, even during high-speed cornering, they remain grippy and they still grip the road despite all conditions. And that is one thing that I really respect Hankook for putting up to improve their tires. Although their wear rate seems to be slightly higher than normal, the tires are so cheap that you can get away with it. For me, value proposition wise, or for my clients who value comfort and safety and their everyday driving, I would not hesitate to recommend the Hankook over these Pirellis. Disadvantages about the Hankook: it really also helps you feel economy because the sidewalls are so thin and so soft. But the Hankook has slightly higher wear rates, much higher than the Michelin XM2. And another thing that I noticed about the Hankook is very vague and very questionable steering input. Because comfort has been placed above everything else on the Hankook, even though there is grip on the road and there is It's very capable. You can't feel the capability through the steering or the body of the car. So you would not dare to push your car, or you don't feel like pushing the car through a corner in those Hankooks. Most of the time, it just defaults into a safe understeer, and it can be very easily controlled. Good for the usual driver, not very nice for the drivers. When compared to the Michelin, there is a very distinct lack of rolling resistance on the Michelin tires. I do not know what Michelin is able to do, but they have been practicing witchcraft with their tire compounds lately. Their tires are able to make your car roll like nobody's business. You can literally release the throttle completely and your car will still be rolling, therefore saving you fuel. Even the sports tires have lower rolling resistance than some of the premium touring and economy tires in the tire world, which is insane, come and think of it. Disadvantages of the XM, they are quite noisy. Being an economy tire, being an energy saving tire, the compound would have to be firmer due to it being an eco-conscious tire. So little road noises, especially when you have rougher tarmac or slightly older tarmac, you can really hear it booming through the cabin. That was the issue that I have with the XM2s or my Proton Iris, especially when the tires aged. After 2 to 3 years, when you wear down the tires, it gets even more obvious that the tires are worn, and you can hear it and feel it. The other thing about the XM2 I noticed is that the on-limit handling can be rather tricky, especially when the road is slightly damp. Not when it's wet, not when it's dry, but they also squeal a hell lot. Those XM2s are going up Genting, even though they are capable and they grip, they squeal a hell lot, especially when you try to do something slightly more sporty. While the corners can be handled confidently in the Pirellis, in the XM2 Plus, especially when they're starting to get worn or when they're cold, can bite you in the back suddenly, especially with the Iris, with my alignment tuning to be more tail happy. And also the price. I have to admit, while the Michelin lasted me really long, I only had to change 2 tires on my Proton Iris every 3 years on Michelin XM2s. They are expensive and their prices have gone up. Last time, 185/60/15s for my Iris were only 180 per tire. Now it's 275 ringgit, which is quite a big jump. Now, coming to these Pirellis, I noticed that the refinement is actually slightly better than the Michelins, and the driving feel itself is better, all down to the much more firmer sidewall, and also Pirelli being sporty as usual in their drive tuning. Like this corner, I can feel absolutely what the front wheels are doing, and it's a pleasure to drive. It really enhances the Saga. The Saga is already a very good handling car, the new Saga, and this just elevates the car to another level. Cons, I'm not sure about the wear rate right now, since I've only been using the Pirelli tires for 3 weeks rather than 3 years, so that would have to wait. That was beautiful through that corner just now, look at it. The other issue that I have with the Pirellis, there is quite an obvious drop when it comes to efficiency, especially rolling resistance. The Proton Saga on the original tires would actually roll quite far before you actually need to give it a little bit more throttle to let it go further. On the Pirellis, the moment I lift off the throttle, the car seems to be slowing down almost immediately. Now, this is nice as a driver if you're going up hills, if you're attacking corners. But as a daily driver, it reduces, in effect, your fuel efficiency because of the higher rolling resistance. I can feel like even now, going downhill over here in PJSS2, I needed to give it a little bit of throttle for the car to be motivated to go to the next corner and to maintain speed. The constant on throttle therefore uses more fuel and therefore reduces your efficiency. This is also true of because the tires are slightly wider and taller than the original size. I'm curious as to see if I have a lower resistance tire on the Proton Saga. It may suit the comfort aspect of the car better than this. The Pirellis, on the other hand, I had to give it a little bit more gas every single time, where the car would slow down because of the tires. But so far, if you're asking me, if you like driving and you don't want to spend too much on tires, and you would like some tires which can do the daily grind but with a little bit of a sporting edge, that feel, you know, that sensitivity of feedback and driver's enjoyment, the Pirelli Cinturato Rosso is really quite a good choice of tire, considering that now that Michelins are quite overpriced. I would highly recommend this tire for those who are looking for an easy, safe to handle tire that can do everything. Because most sports tires would struggle in the wet. The Bridgestone RE004, that's terrible in the wet. This just corners so confidently without fuss or drama, but it feels nice, and that's what you want as a driver. And you can do that in the rain as well. I have tested, and on the highways, even with pouring rain, the tires grip and it felt safe and confident. So that is my concluding review of the Pirelli. And if you have any more questions, do comment down below and I'll answer your questions with my experiences with tires. Goodbye and have a safe drive home.